Several weeks ago, I was delighted to find £200 deposited in my bank account by the UK government. It was the alternative fuel allowance as I heat the house with wood and oil. I decided to invest this bonus in something that will hopefully make my life a little easier. A new tent. I wanted one that had standing room to assist my ageing bones, and also a porch area where I could sit and make dinner when it rains or keep midges away when they want to eat me for their lunch. The Vango Galaxy 300 tent, which Cotswold were selling for £260, seemed to fit that bill. Naturally, I was keen to try it out at the first available opportunity. So when my friends the Kayakers mentioned they were heading for Locheta for a couple of nights camping the last week of February, and would I like to join them, I jumped at the chance. The forecast for the 3 days of our outing was for full sun, light winds but bitter cold temperatures. The cold didn't bother us as we dressed for the weather. I met with my brother Douglas at the old pier car park at Tinault, who set up and launched their boats. I was of course going by guppy, while Douglas was going by kayak. Ian and Alan were also arriving a little later, so we agreed to meet them at their proposed campsite. It was our first multi-day adventure in 2023, so we were all keen to be underway. Douglas utilised the flow of the River Awe to assist propelling him through the oncoming Bon Awe tide race. Being mechanically propelled, I just headed straight into it. Of course, because my boat was heavily laden with camping gear and beer, I was restricted to displacement speeds, but that is not a problem when camping with kayakers, as they like to go at a slow but steady pace too. It gives plenty of time to watch the birds fly by and admire the stunning scenery. Being in small boats in a big sea loch means there's plenty of scenery to see around you too. Douglas's eagle eye soon spied a discarded buoy, and like her late father, he just can't pass one by. So it was soon in tow, tied securely to his rear deck. As we were in no hurry, we stopped for a coffee and catch-up before heading on our way. It was such a lovely, albeit bitterly cold day. The bitter breeze was straight out the east and cut the exposed skin like a knife, so it was soon time to stop again for another coffee. I pulled into the next bay, which gave Douglas time to catch up. It's a big advantage of kayaking in cold weather. The exercise of paddling keeps him warm, while I tend to sit and freeze in my boat. When he caught up, we sat on a rock, and as I slurped coffee, he took photographs of the views. Refreshed and relaxed, we then made our way over the last mile to the campsite. Our plan was to pitch tents in this location and spend 2 nights in the wilderness with wonderful views of the loch and its surrounding mountains. Yep, I was delighted to be back in the promised land, sleeping under the stars in my new tent. A Vango Galaxy 300. For the past 15 years or so, I have been very happy in my Vango Banshee 300 tent. It's still lasting well, but I'm afraid I'm not faring as well. As I approach the 70-year-old mark, I find it harder to bend my back and legs to get in and out of it. When it rains, I have to retire to a tent. It means lying down, which can make it a long night. I therefore wanted a tent that gives more room, which is my reason for getting the new one. So this is my first thoughts in this tent. Obviously it's much bulkier to carry than the Banshee, but that is not an issue for me, as I'm not backpacking with it. Comforts come at a cost, and if it means a little more weight than bulk, so be it. This is my first attempt at erecting it, but a quick read of instructions didn't show any problems, so I expected it to be easy enough. I will now speed up the video to prevent you getting bored, but it honestly doesn't take much longer to erect than the Banshee did. There are 3 main poles which hold the tent up, and they are colour-coded, so you insert the correct pole in its corresponding sleeve, so you can't really make an error. I was amazed at how easy it was to bend the rigid pole into shape, but I guess their lengths assist in this task. They are certainly strong enough, and I don't think I'll have any worries even in a strong wind. I suspect it would take a little longer and be a bit harder to put up in a strong wind, but that's only to be expected, and I don't really go camping in gale-force winds. 2 short poles are then inserted into roof sleeves and they hold the porch in shape. Because the inner tent is attached to the outer tent, all that is left to do now is peg out the supporting guys and the tent walls to the poles end. I should mention the inner tent is removable, so it can be inserted after the outer tent is put up, which is handy if it's raining. So to summarise the erection, it is very easy for one person to put up the Vango Galaxy 300 tent. It's certainly no harder than the Vango Banshee was. However, it takes up twice the space the smaller tent required, and as such is far more visible in the wilderness. I confess I felt I was no longer stealth camping. My plans for this tent is to use it on longer adventures where I plan to camp up in the same spot for longer periods of time, instead of staying in one night and then moving on. The Banshee will still be used for those type of trips. It's a large porch area that sold this tent to me. Being able to stand or sit and cook inside a tent will be a new luxury for me and will save my old bones a bit of bending. The inner sleeping compartment has plenty of room for me to lie out the full stretch, and I'm almost 6 feet tall. Although I didn't bother with it this time around, it also has a ground sheet that clips around the porch area walls. I added a few extra attachments to the walls, so the ground sheet should form a seal and keep the midges out in the summer season. So far, I'm delighted with the new tent. My only slight complaint is the price. But that may be because I don't like spending money, so don't let that put you off. I'm looking forward to using it as a base camp on a remote island, doing day excursions from there. Although it's bigger than the Banshee, its footprint is no larger than the bug-off shelter and smaller tent combined, and a bug-off shelter won't be required when I use the Vango Galaxy 300. Returning to the adventure, just as my tent was set up, Ian and Alan arrived at the campsite. They also set up their tents, then went walkabouts as I collected wood for the campfire. On the return, the fire was lit and we scoffed homemade chili con carne, washed down with lashings of beer. I could feel the frost start as it began to get dark, so was pleased to have the fire. We watched stars twinkle in the dark night as we slurped more beer before going to bed. I confess that I froze that night. I hardly slept a wink as I feared hypothermia would get the better of me. My problem was I only have a sleeping bag suitable for summer use, plus an extra blanket. My air bed offered no insulation between my body and the freezing ground. The large tent didn't heat from any warmth from my body. I think it's the coldest night I have ever spent under canvas. But that's not the tent's fault, that's my fault. I was glad when it started getting lighter in the morning and was up first thing for a brisk walk to get my circulation moving again. Everything was white, covered with a thick frost. The other guys all enjoyed a good night's sleep as they all had winter sleeping bags and insulated mats. I resolved my sleeping equipment shortage as soon as I got home and ordered a new winter season sleeping bag full of responsibly sourced duck down, so as to never repeat such a cold night's sleep. We all enjoyed hot coffees and ate breakfast at 8 a.m. when the sun rose above the hills. It almost made me feel warm again. The kayakers planned on paddling down the rest of the loch while I decided to do a little fishing. I headed for the exact same spot, where only 3 days previously I had caught 2 spur dogs and a couple of whiting. But this time I blanked and caught nothing. 3 days ago I watched 4 sea eagles flap around my boat as they watched me catching the spur dogs. This time there was not a bird in sight. This time I was frozen to the marrow, so soon got bored and decided to head on up the loch to catch up with the kayakers. The bitter east wind started to blow the full length of the loch again, making me shiver, so I was glad when I caught up with the guys. They were sitting in a log in the sun, and the exercise of paddling had kept them nice and warm. I decided that enough was enough. I had a coffee, then headed for home and a hot shower. Not my best camping experience, but I still enjoyed myself. And it was my first overnight adventure in 2023. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.